Charlotte and Paige going back and forth, who's champion, who's contender, with divas like Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks being put on the proverbial back burner. Really not a big fan of that because Sasha Banks is obviously over with the We Want Sasha chants resonating week in and week out on Raw Super Shows and Thursday Night SmackDown tapings. I think it's time to really put Sasha Banks over. I've said bank on Sasha for months. I've been posting video blogs pertaining to Sasha Banks and the direction of her character because I really believe there's a lot of potential that goes with someone like Sasha Banks, and you can get that from some of her footage on NXT, some of the earlier years of her career, the earlier stages, if you will, when she was under the mentorage of Dusty Rhodes as the GM of NXT, and I thought then she had a lot of potential, and I still hold to that about Sasha Banks. So put her over rather than reiterating Paige and Charlotte and Paige back and forth. The contract signing for their match at Survivor Series and Charlotte coming away with the victory obviously put a stamp of finality on that feud, although WWE doesn't believe it's over, and they're trying to convince us that things between Paige and Charlotte needs to be reiterated time and time again, and it's not over. It's time to put a stamp of finality on that, bury that rivalry, and get on with something else, even if it is Sasha Banks versus Charlotte for the championship, because Sasha is the one who's really over. Who do we blame for all this? It's obviously Triple H, and he has to go. I think that even though it's the holiday season, there is room for improvement with WWE, and we need a new COO. We need a new sense of direction because he's not saying anything intelligent, nor is he doing anything intelligent as a COO. And what really got me about Triple H, yes, I'll reiterate it again, what he did with Sting at WrestleMania 31, putting himself over in a match that was completely unnecessary. This was the first time ever we were going to see Sting wrestle for WWE, and he loses the fucking match to Triple H the way he did, being super kicked by Shawn Michaels, ambushed by DX before the NWO came out to bail him out. And even though the NWO tried to come out and bail him out, they failed in doing so. I understand the logic and the psychology behind WWE not going to let WCW win. Vince McMahon was obviously one of the pioneers of WWE for years, and he was not going to let his rival organization WCW get one over on WWE. Now, they did it back for the alliance angle when WWE faced WCW and ECW back in the day when Stephanie McMahon, Shane McMahon, and Paul Heyman formed that alliance because WWE had 100% creative control. But obviously because Sting wanted some stuff in his contract, they weren't going to let WCW get over with this feud between Triple H and Sting. I understood that, but I mean, to go as far as what you did with it, having Triple H win, and then months later, 6 months later, having Sting lose to Seth Rollins because of a neck injury, because of a power bomb, a freak accident, is what I'm referring to it as. Sting was so professional in that match. The highlight of the match coming away from it was Sting finishing the match professionally, being pinned by Seth Rollins. Rollins retains the title. We haven't seen Sting since. But to break his neck, did you have to go as far as that? And it pissed me off as much as what you did. It's debatable whether or not we're going to see Sting again, but I still hold the belief that we have not seen the last of Sting when it comes to WWE. He's really the only one that can save us right now in terms of the ratings. They have tried to pay wrestlers millions of dollars to come back for one match. Shawn Michaels is one of those individuals they have had paid millions to come back for one more match. He's refusing to do so, and who can blame him along with other legends for not wanting anything to do with Triple H? They just come in under a Legends contract, make the brief appearance, and they come in and go all the time. Coming in, going all the time because they don't want anything to do with Triple H. Again, blaming him for everything that's gone awry, gone astray in WWE. Never really was a big fan of Triple H. Wasn't a fan of him back in the mid-90s, the late 90s, and not even more so now a fan of Triple H. In 2011, when he was announced as the COO, I tried to get in to Triple H being the COO. I tried to readjust, if you would, from Vince McMahon running it all those years, over 70 years of Vince McMahon. We are celebrating with his 70th birthday last August. Really tried to readjust to Triple H being the COO, but I just couldn't do it because I never was a fan of Triple H. I just mentioned how I wasn't a fan of him back in the mid-90s when he debuted in 95. Looking for an opportunity, wasn't even more so a fan of him in the Attitude Era. If anyone carried the Attitude Era and was the poster child of the Attitude Era, the poster children, it was obviously Steve Austin and The Rock. It was never Triple H, although DX was really a iconic faction for the Attitude Era and that time frame of professional wrestling during that war with World Championship Wrestling. It wasn't Triple H who made it stand out. It was Shawn Michaels, from my point of view as a wrestling fan, and never Triple H. So I never really was a fan of Triple H, and I guess that hatred carried over when he was announced as a COO. We knew Triple H was going to have a role with WWE outside of being a wrestler years after he had established his legacy as a professional wrestling. What is he now, a 13, 14-time champion, wanting to stop at 16 or 15 title reigns out of respect to Ric Flair? I appreciate that, but to go from being a 13, 14-time champion to a COO who has no fucking idea how to run WWE is really ridiculous, and WWE doing nothing about it is even more ridiculous, and it really makes me feel for wrestling fans out there who really don't have time to understand or grasp the concept of professional wrestling, of how professional wrestling pisses us off more times as fans than it gives us what we want. As wrestling fans, if we were given what we wanted all the time, I think wrestling would be a far better business. It would be far better orchestrated than what it is now, and more wrestling fans will have positive things to talk about than they do negative sides things about professional wrestling, because we hear more negative things about professional wrestling all the time than we do positive things, and that's really irritating from the point of view of a wrestling fan who wants more out of the product that we never do see. And it goes back to how Triple H and Stephanie are calling the shots and running it very terribly here in 2015. You know, in 2015, 20 years ago, if you were to tell me we were going to go all the way from presidents like Gorilla Monsoon and Roddy Piper and Vince McMahon running the show to a COO like Triple H, I would have told you you're absolutely ridiculous. There's no way Triple H is going to be the COO of the WWE, and we're not going to be in the state that we're in right now. But obviously, the state of the WWE right now is really drastic. There's no word on whether or not we're going to get out of this rut, and there's no saying who's going to come in and try to take over from power of Triple H. But who could it be if somebody was to come in and take over Triple H's role as the COO? Would it in fact be Shane McMahon? Would it be Vince McMahon himself? Would it be another wrestler like a Daniel Bryan or a Sting? I was kind of leaning towards Sting coming in as the COO or the commissioner of the company. I thought that would be a unique swerve to have in the storylines, given how Sting had never really gotten the better of the Authority, and that would have been the perfect way to throw a thorn in the side of the Authority, to have Sting come in and take over as COO of the company or commissioner and kind of go back and forth with power, struggling between himself and the Authority. That would have been fantastic, or somebody else we haven't seen in a long time signing a contract with WWE to be commissioner, or the COO taking over Triple H's role. Either that, Vince McMahon, Shane McMahon, there are a lot of potentialities when it comes to replacing Triple H, but the bottom line here is, in the words of Stone Cold Steve Austin, one of the greatest legends of all time, who is the poster child of 2K16, the bottom line here is that Triple H has to go, and if he doesn't go, we're going to be in dire straits with professional wrestling. We're going to be seeing dire straits for a really long time. I think the truer words have never been spoken. Something has to be done about Triple H when you're talking about the state of the WWE. More wrestlers who deserve to be being put over. Rusev is only now getting away from the TMZ.com blogs of himself and Lana being engaged, and Sheamus is now only getting the World Championship. Never really was a big fan of Sheamus being champion from either reign that he had as either WWE World Champion and now WWE World Heavyweight Champion for the first time ever, but at least it's something different. The state of WWE really needed something to really shake it up and change the complexity, if you would, of the company, because we were crying out for the complexity of the company to change forever, and it didn't seem like it was going to change anytime soon. But at least now something different in the way of differentiality is occurring in professional wrestling, and we have something actually worth talking about rather than Triple H. I wish something would be done about Triple H. What it comes down to is there are a number of issues and a number of things that can be done to correct these issues. One of the biggest is finding a new COO and someone who is both creative and has a sense of direction with WWE, but at the end of the day, when the smoke is cleared and the dust is settled, nothing is being done. And that's the unfortunate thing for all wrestling fans, who are subject to the same thing constantly, week in and week out, for editions of the Monday Night Raw Super Shows, the Thursday Night SmackDown tapings. It's utterly ridiculous what we are faced with when you're talking in terms of the state of WWE, and something has to be done before it is too late. And I often wonder sometimes if in fact it is too late to change the complexity of professional wrestling, as much as what we've been desperately trying and crying out for the complexity to have changed over the last couple of months. Without a doubt, the complexity of the company has changed, but has it changed for what's best for business, in the words of the Authority, mainly Triple H, and has it changed for the better? And if you're Vince McMahon, are you feeling as confident as what you were a couple of years ago when you first implied the idea and implemented the fact that Triple H was the acting COO for the purpose of storylines on TV? Which is why I'm really proud that I read on ProWrestling.net that Vince McMahon is believed to still be the guy calling the shots backstage, and Triple H just used for storylines on TV to defeat the purpose of having Vince McMahon play the on-screen character which he's played for years since the late 90s. I think that WWE is definitely in a state of desperation. I think they're just doing things out of desperation now, mostly because we have wrestlers having time off, putting in for that, and wrestlers on the DL like Randy Orton and Seth Rollins with no definite time for their return. The maximum amount of time allowed for Seth Rollins' injury is up to 9 months. Randy Orton is out for an indefinite period of time, and it's unknown at this point in time if and when we will see John Cena back. I like to believe we will see John Cena back, but will we see John Cena back before it is too late? That is the question that that I don't have an answer for right now with how he dropped the title to Alberto Del Rio the way he did back in October at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view when Alberto Del Rio surprised us all with a shocking return using the backstabber, which he's used on John Cena before to get victories, and using it to his advantage to capture a United States Championship first time ever in his illustrious career. Obviously, Cena and Alberto Del Rio's feud will be picked up where it left off from Hell in a Cell a couple of months ago. When Cena returns, that's obviously the direction for Cena's character to take when he returns to WWE, if and when that is. I don't have a time or a date to put on John Cena's return, but it is desperately needed now with all the wrestlers on the DL and with how Triple H is calling the shots in WWE, just because he feels like he's an inferior being to everybody else and everything else happening within the company, which is resulting in low ratings and bad reviews from critics out there who all the time love to jump down the throat of Triple H and get in his face for how he's running the WWE, myself included, who is no stranger to talking very badly about Triple H. I don't have a high opinion when it comes to Triple H. I never have had a high opinion, and I doubt I ever will. But can you really blame me at the end of the day for feeling the way that I have for so long about Triple H, as I take another direct shot at Triple H and the Authority, both himself and his wife, for how they've been running WWE, going about their business with how Vince McMahon left them in power all those years ago in 2011. It's been 4.5 years, almost 5. We're coming out in the 5-year mark of Triple H running the company alongside his wife Stephanie, and the Authority are doing a terrible job. And at the end of the day, what really can be done about it? Are they listening to wrestling fans? And if they aren't listening to wrestling fans, should they be listening to wrestling fans? I think that is a definite, because I think that if people were listening to wrestling fans more than what they were given credit for having been listened to over the years, I think wrestling would be a far better place. If wrestling fans were the COO as opposed to Triple H, wrestling would be a far better place and far more enjoyable of a product to watch. But as long as someone like Triple H is calling the shots, we are going nowhere with professional wrestling. And